Welcome to the development phase of the Strength and Power unit for the advanced athlete. This phase is all about developing the foundations, what we were working on in the first phase, and trying to load them in the most safe and efficient way possible. So the changes of the program are just less exercises, less reps, but now the intensity of, through weight, external load, or tempo is going to induce the strength adaptation that we're looking for. So, talk you through the 6 exercises. The first one is a loaded squat. Now the variations here on a loaded squat are we still got the goblet squat. So again, it's down to you at home really to decide where this can fit in your program, or more accurately, what weight you have at home to use. So if you have just one dumbbell, you have a goblet squat here. Again, we're just going to use the bench just as a bit of reference. If you're competent, step away from the bench. So we do 1 rep away from the bench. And remember keeping the weight close to the center mass, and then you're squatting down into that good range, trying to get that thigh parallel to the floor. Okay, so the other option then is a front squat. So this requires 2 dumbbells or a barbell if you have a barbell at home. So we'll just show you a front squat. Same thing, use the bench as a reference, squatting down, back onto the heels, sitting nice and low into the movement, and then coming out of it. The bench is obviously a good reference for you. It just takes off that transition of going down and up again. So ideally away from the bench, but if you have to use a bench, by all means do it, as long as the technique is good. If you can do it without a bench, that's even better. And then squatting at least as close as you can to parallel, and then coming back up again. Now, if you don't have all those, so if you will remove all the weights, unfortunately, and you don't have weights, so you don't have a tin of beans or anything at home, we're going to use tempo. So again, the bench here. So it's a 4-second count down on the eccentric phase or the downward phase, and a 1 second up. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1 second up is how we're going to induce a bit of a strength adaptation. Obviously, it's a bit better with external load, but we can create a bit more internal tension, which may drive some strength adaptations for you. Again, use the bench with and without it if you feel comfortable. Again, it's that transition of the eccentric phase into the concentric phase is one of the big adaptations of a squat. So removing the bench is ideal. Okay, so then we go into a split squat. So again, ideally we'd like to have some weight on this one. Again, whatever weight you can do. If you have a weighted vest, or if you have a kettlebell, or there's obviously variations that we're trying to accommodate for as many people as possible here. But ideally we want to load this up. This is quite a safe exercise if you get the setup right to load this up. So it's about having the feet hip width apart or slightly wider, and then stepping forward into a nice base of support here. If you're too narrow here, it becomes a bit of a challenge. So make sure you're nice and wide on the splits. I mean, from your left foot to your right foot, there's a bit of a gap, not they're on the same line. And then what you want to do here is drop the back knee, to the floor. You want to control the movement down again, so don't let gravity and momentum or whatever just drive you to the floor. Make sure you're controlling that movement to the floor up, and then drive up again. And as I said in a few videos before, I want the knee, so if you go from the side again, run so they can see, I want the knee, so go into that position. I want the knee to come a little bit forward. So the idea here of the tibia being fixed and parallel to the floor is a bit of nonsense really, because you want the clearance at the knee. You want that clearance of the femur and tibia, so the knee has to come forward. You want a bit of dorsiflexion at the ankle for this movement to be right. Okay, so left and right 8 times is what we're looking for here. And then load up if you can. If you can't load up, then do the tempo like we did before. 4-second countdown and a 1 second out of it. Again, so we'll just do demonstrated, 4-second down, again the same movement, and then 1 second up. Okay, onto the RDL. So a bit like the same format as before, we did a sort of a bilateral exercise, if you like, loading that up. A single leg exercise we're loading up. Now we've got 2 posterior chains, which is just the behind the legs, if you like, the back of the leg, so the hamstrings more accurately. So RDL at home. So again, good setup here. Dumbbells if you have them, barbell if you have it, or we'll show you a broomstick in a minute if you only have that. So again, good setup. So feet again pointed forward, slightly wider than hip width apart, and then you're getting into the movement. So what's important here is that the weight is close to the legs, as close to the shins and the thighs, because if not, if you just want to do one bad rep here running of putting the weight out in front of you, it's creating a massive fulcrum, a lot of leverage on the spine, the lumbar spine, and that causes a lot of issues. So keeping the center mass, i.e. the weight, close to your legs, And then you can sometimes see the toes flick up a little bit. That's just the body trying to calibrate itself and get into a state of equilibrium. So just make sure that your feet are flat on the floor. 1 or 2 reps of them coming up is totally fine, but you're trying to keep your feet flat on the floor, and the weight comes from the midfoot to behind the heel, or to the heels. At home, you can do it on a broomstick. So again, tighten up through the scapula. You make sure you're nice and tight, not too chest forward, just a little bit of retraction of the shoulders. And then again, the bar pat, you can see it, or the broomstick pat, coming nice and close to the shins. Now the depth and how you go is a lot to do with your competency here. So as long as you get a good back position, you see a little bit of rounding there at the end, so it's going a bit too far into the movement. But beneath the knee, or around the knee, I suppose the mid shin is around the range we're looking for here. There's nothing too specific here. Just get good range with good posture, good technique, and you should be in the right position to get adaptation from it. Again, slow tempo down, 4 seconds down and 1 up if you have no weight. If you have weight, then of course it's more of a 1, 2, 3 down and then 1 up. That's the variation there. So depending on home what you have, do the best you can. Now we're going to try a bit of a different. This is quite a challenging movement. It's the Askling sliders, but in variation. So trying to think at home what you have available to you. We're going to make the front leg is going to be nice and long, and you're going to basically same principle again. You're going to slide the barbell or the broomstick or the dumbbells if you have it along the shin. So we're going to load them up on that side more so. So it's just a single leg load. But again, we're looking for similar principle of movement. So even you can step a bit forward, more you can challenge yourself, so you can step forward on the foot. Yeah, it's going to challenge the stretch of the hamstring. So as soon as you bring that foot forward and you get into that range, you're really loading up the hamstring by the pelvis and leading it forward. And again, you want that good posture on the movement here. So what happens sometimes here is the knee might start to bend a lot. So a soft knee is okay, but you wanted a fairly straight leg if possible to load up that leg. And again, use the feel of your own self and your own body, where you can get to, how you feel. And if you go a dumbbell loaded on the opposite side of the foot that's forward, or and Ron's going to show you now, or a broomstick is good enough at home, or a barbell, whatever you have. We're just trying to accommodate for what may be at home to you. But remember, this is development phase, so we want a bit of load through the movement. As long as you get good posture of the back, as long as you're not arching through your spine, you're not going into too much hip flexion, hip extension, then you're okay. Okay, so onto the last 2 exercises then are the landing, the jumping and landing, or the plyometrics if you like. Some of them are more true plyometrics than others, but it's the whole principle here of jumping and landing, which is obviously when you return to your sport is going to be a high demand for you. So it's a play on the variation of the pogos. And remember, with the pogos, there's 3 main considerations to have: is the jump height that you get to, the contact time on the floor, and then also is the toes coming up are really important. If the toes remain flat, it coincides then with a longer contact time, and you're not going to get as much adaptation. But the exercise here is about standing in the middle of a cross or the middle of a clock. You're going to jump out to 12 o'clock, back to the middle, out left or right, and the opposite side, and then back and then forward again. So you always start in the middle, you finish and start in the middle, you go out front, out to the side, back to the middle, out to the other side, back behind you, and then forward. And you're going to do 2 of these as 1 rep if you like. So that's the movement here, but it's important here the toes are up. And what I always say about plyometrics is, yes, we talk about the force, yes, we talk about the timing, and yes, we talk about the mechanics of it, but there's also a massive feel to plyometrics. It's like striking a football or striking a sliotar. There's a sweet spot to it. So once you get that timing right of the movement, you get more force, you get more punch out of the movement. So make sure the timing feels right to you. So it's not all about the maximum force we can apply, because sometimes you lose a lot of energy trying to do that. If you can get the mechanics right, it gets less energy leaks, and it just feels like a good movement. That shouldn't be underestimated in this movement. The last one then is a moving lateral hops. Okay, so we're talking about the frontal plane here. In your sport, it's very important that we are comfortable left and right, and obviously rotational. We do a lot of up and down and forward and back, but this is now just all lateral movement. Okay, so we're going to do 8 across, just hops to our left, and then we can maybe do 4 if the space allows it, and then come back. Now, yeah, right, good. Okay, so you can see here on Ronan, his right is much better than his left. Now, why I'm saying that is, it's not so much the height he generates, it's more about the displacement of the hip on a horizontal plane. So you don't want to come up too much here. You want to shift across. You think about the specifics of the game. You might have the ball and you want to shift across left to maybe a shot on goal or make a pass or get past your opponent. So it's that ability of the body to shift left and shift right, not so much up. So you're going to lose energy and time doing that. You just want to be able to shift the body across and slow it down if you have to. If you have to do a hop and stick and you get more purchase out of that, hop and stick. If you can't absorb the momentum of you going left and right, then slow it down and then just work across. But it's all about driving as much force, as much distance as I can across my body. Yeah, that's really important from that. Okay, that's the 6 exercises we'd like you to do in this phase. Again, the repetition is 8. Now, what we on most of them, and we'll also post what each exercise needs to be. But we'd like you to do at least 3 sets, and if you can manage the 4th set, I'd like you to push yourself onto the 4th set in this development phase. But at a minimum, 3 sets of all these exercises, and at a best, I would like you to do 4. So that's the next block of exercises done. I hope you enjoy them and you challenge your movement, and we'll see you again soon.